Well, hello and welcome to the Healthy Rebel Speaks Out podcast. And today we have a very exciting guest who is truly an expert in health and well-being. Her life transforming programs and products have been featured on NBC News, Fox Business, Oxygen, Self Magazine, Women's World, and a lot more. She has shared the stage with world-renowned thought leaders like Maya Angelou, Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, and Lipton, one of my favorites, Byron Katie, Bob Proctor, Wayne Dyer, just a few of these people. And her powerful conscious dance modality, Transcen-dance, has been practiced all over the world and featured in LA Yoga magazine as one of the top conscious dance modalities on the planet. Well, welcome, Jennifer Joy Jimenez, to our podcast. I am so excited that you are here. So I would just like to begin just how, just your own journey into all of this and becoming aware and how this helped you so much.
Well, Bonni, I'm super grateful to be here. Thank you for that lovely introduction. And just for you and your work, being a transformational change agent in the world, helping people really come home to their mind, body, spirit connection and love themselves more, accepting who they are. And we share, of course, in that passion. And so how did I come to this work? How did I come to Transcen-dance? Well, my first joy and love was to become a professional dancer. So I grew up in a small farm in Oregon. And of course, we are wired as humans to love to move and wiggle and dance to music. If you've ever been to an outdoor concert and you look around, who are the ones in the front row? It's all the little kids, right? And they're not doing any kind of specific dance move or technique. They're not worried about what they look. They don't say, I have two left feet. They haven't learned any of that yet. If you watch a baby and music turns on, what does a baby do? They start to just kind of bounce and move their wiggle their little bodies to music. So we're all wired to move. It is an innate longing and desire as human beings to connect together and to be connected in rhythm and movement. And then we start to go to school and we're taught to sit down, be quiet, shut up, not wiggle, right? And stop dreaming in many cases, depending on the school. Now, there are some creative outlets these days, but mainstream school. And so to have that outlet for dance, I thought I needed to go the traditional route. So I started taking traditional modern and ballet and jazz and tap. That led to musical theater. I moved to New York to pursue professional dance and theater and did become a professional modern dancer. And it was really when I became a mother, when I became pregnant with my daughter, Alegria, who is now 24, by the way. So that ages me a little bit here. I'm 48 at the time of this interview. I was at the peak of my fitness level, professional dancing. I look like a professional dancer, very thin, very lean, very fit. And I become pregnant. And I'd been married for a few years, but we were transitioning from one birth control method to the other. And you know what happens when you're careful. I was very fertile, so I became pregnant. And I was raised by a thought leader mother. So I had all these midwives and alternative people coming to me with these books about, Western medicine and how you really need to go natural. And I wanted a natural birth anyway. So I approached that birth like I was going to climb Kilimanjaro. I read every book. I took every class I could, prenatal yoga, everything. But what I didn't hear and what I didn't read or really train, because it wasn't available, at least that I could find here in Southern California 25 years ago now, was how to learn to trust my feminine body, how to love my body through this birth process. There was a lot of, at least in that era for me, controlling of the body, right? And I didn't realize how abusive I had been, how I actually didn't love my body, how I had absolutely starved my body. I couldn't even feel hunger because as a dancer, right, I wanted to be so pencil thin. I couldn't eat. And that led to a 50-hour labor, which led to an epidural, which I didn't want. And I did end up having, a vaginal delivery, but I just felt like I had failed miserably. Here I had this beautiful, beautiful baby in my arms, but it didn't go at all the way I had planned. And I know so many people in life are mess. Often, if we can harness that as a portal, can become our message, right? The greatest challenges that we have, if we receive them as spiritual gifts, right, and lessons from God, can ultimately take us into our purpose work, our destiny. And that's what it was for me. It was, yes, it was a seeming failure, but what it taught me was how disconnected from my body I was, how abusive to my body I was, how in that restrictive, controlling, constrictive relationship with my body, what the output was struggle in birth, ultimately struggle in life. And it was an awakening for me. It was this opportunity to go, okay, I don't know how to change this result, but I know something's missing. There's a disconnect here. And I just asked God, I asked Spirit for guidance. And that led me to books on the mind, body, spirit connection, to movement methods that help connect and remind me of my truth. We're born, like I said, as kids, we're expressed. We sing, we dance, we're creative, we're imaginative, we're free. And then somehow, where along the line, we begin to shut all that down and put it in a drawer and shove it away. Most children stop eating when they're hungry. I mean, when they're full, like they have a healthy relationship with food and with their body and with their weight. And again, some of those things can turn into coping mechanisms and overeating. And so there's a lot of overs and unders, right? Overeating, undereating,
Sure.
over exercising, under moving, neglecting our bodies. And so yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Also, I just wanted to appreciate for a moment, because you didn't mention it too much, but the years and years that you spent, as a, professionally training as a dancer, and you spend the entire time, what are you doing? You're looking at yourself in the mirror, and this is what your whole identity is about. So what is in my mind as you were going through your entire personal story, and thank you for sharing, is what it was like, to then, your whole body changes, and it's not about you anymore, and you're feeding this other like beautiful live being growing in your body. And it's just, that whole past experience, we're just not prepared for all of this. It's
Yeah.
just, it's I can imagine, I mean, even more so, I think all of us women for sure have these pressures on us and the changing of our bodies when you get pregnant, but having that ballerina experience takes it to like another level.
It did. It did. Yeah. My body gained 50 pounds, even though I watched every morsel and I ate exactly what the experts said I needed to eat this much protein and this much of this. And, like I really treated it like a science. And yet the body has its own plan, and the body is wise. And the doctors weren't telling me to just let my body, to trust that my body knows what it's doing. And if there's one, message that I could give, is if you really do feel like you're living life in alignment with your higher self, and I wasn't coping with food. I wasn't overeating. I wasn't eating all the kinds of things I shouldn't be eating. And yet I still gained 50 pounds, right? Which goes against a lot of the traditional science and what a lot of medical science would tell you. And yet what I knew deep down, when I closed my eyes and I really just connected, I knew I was healthy. I didn't, my blood pressure, all my signs and signals was vibrant, healthy, totally not a problem. My baby was healthy. And my body knew exactly also how to release that weight if I just ate healthy. And I did end up nursing my daughter, and I just released the constriction and the control, really the whipping my body into shape. And these new books that I was reading and classes that I was taking really helped me understand that our bodies are so much more than just this physical flesh and the bones and the muscles and the ligaments and the adipose tissue, right? The excess body fat. We're energy beings, we're spiritual beings having this human experience. And there's so much more to life than just worrying about what size I am or what the number on the scale is, and that doesn't determine my worth. So many years, to your point, that
Mm-hmm.
I would just have the worst day if I'd gained 2 pounds or even a half a pound. It would just be I would terrorize myself with my size and my shape and my weight because of the cultural, programming, especially in the professional dance world. But
Yeah. Even the extreme, but I would say, most of us women have that, but it sounds like, I mean, like you had this epiphany, but at least you were able to kind of look at it, almost objectively and be like, oh my goodness, everything, the way I've been looking at everything is wrong.
it's two-dimensional, right? It's just two-dimensional, and we aren't two-dimensional beings. We're 3 and 4-dimensional beings. And so it was such a gift. And as I began to find conscious dance, I learned to love my body. I learned to trust my body's wisdom. I learned to pray through movement and dance. Or, that's one word, but commune. I learned how to be a vessel for divine love. I learned how to heal aches and pains that were in my body just through release of energy and refilling that part of my body with love. And then I began to work with other people, and I had people say, so you are bright and shiny, you move so free, what's going on, how can I learn more about that? And I began to codify my method into what today you call, and you would hear as Transcen-dance. And I have trained facilitators all over the world who lead and teach Transcendence. We teach Transcendence virtually through Zoom and other virtual methods. There's recorded versions of it. There's live experiences on retreats and in conference rooms. You can find, Transcendence, all the places you might find yoga today. You can find yoga in retreat centers, fitness studios and classes, as well as community centers, rehab places. We have people that take
Wow.
Transcendence as part of their healing from, sex trafficking or abuse or trauma, to firefighters, also correctional facilities. There's Transcendence for kids, teens, adults, seniors. The best thing about conscious dance is it's all ages and all mobility levels, including if you're in a hospital bed. You can learn how to harness these stages and this energy for greater healing. And so much fun. That's the other thing.
Well,
It's so
it
much fun.
sounds really life altering, but you touched on so many points, and I really want to kind of flush them out a little bit. But
Sure.
first, yeah, maybe, I mean, obviously this is very different than regular dancing, but maybe you could just explain that first, and then
Sure.
maybe we can talk about some of the different, uses of it.
Absolutely. So, in a regular dance class, typically you have a front of the class. Usually there's a mirror, not always. There's a teacher that's facing you, and they're teaching you very specific steps to follow. There's typically a way to do the steps and a wrong way to do the steps. And you need to be pretty coordinated and able to follow choreography to feel like you're having any fun in a traditional dance class. Also, you're looking at the two-dimensional form. It's very rare that a dance teacher is going to talk about touching into your feelings or releasing or tapping into your inner world. You pretty much have to, if you're not feeling happy that day, you suppress those feelings and you put a smile on your face anyways, in a traditional fitness or dance class. And we're talking about carving out or changing the physical body, getting a six-pack abs, buns of steel, releasing the fat on those thighs, because the goal is this physiological change in the body, regardless of how you feel, regardless of whether you've eaten that day. Like, we're not talking about a holistic approach. Traditionally, if we go back 10, 20, 30 years and you go to any traditional fitness or dance class, that's pretty much the conversation that's going on. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I think there's room for, I love, traditional classes and that it serves a specific purpose, right? In a conscious dance class like Transcen-dance, number one, there's no front to the class. Now, if you're in a virtual setting, certainly your computer might feel like front, but because you're not copying specific dance steps or movements, I'm giving you verbal cues that help unlock and unleash the inner dancer within you. My recommendation is going to be to close your eyes and to feel the music from the inside, to let the music and the rhythm move you, to let your spirit move you an inspired inner way. All of a sudden, your whole space becomes your playground. Just like kids, they're going to run around, they're going to use the whole space, they're going to get down on the floor, they're going to be all over. And so that's one of the differences. The other thing is you're going to hear messages like, love and accept your body. Send gratitude to your organs, right? Send gratitude to your heart and your lungs for pumping blood and air through your whole body. So there's this mind-body connection, and the verbal cues are really all about generating a greater sense of self-love, self-acceptance, and activating the thoughts of the mind in a powerful way. Whereas, as a young woman in dance, the words would then have me focus on my flaws. And then I'm so focused on my flaws, let's say the little bit of cellulite I might have on the side of my leg, and I'm doing all these leg lifts to try to burn that off, when so much of my body is working so hard to keep me alive and to keep me strong, and my immune system to fight off disease. And all I'm focused on is this like half an inch of adipose tissue on the outside of my leg. Like, what am I doing here? Seriously, there's so much more to life, so much beauty. This beautiful body, this body temple of ours is designed to live life. It gives us our five senses. It allows us to hug our loved ones. It hikes us up hills. It swims us across oceans. We walk on the sand. We have this beautiful experience. So in class, I want my students to walk away from that 60 minutes or however long they come for, right? Feeling better about themselves, feeling love in their body temple, generating an energy of gratitude because our cells are listening. If we're judging and feeling ashamed of our body, our cells are listening to that. If we're filling our body with love and gratitude and appreciation, our immune system increases. So I'll often have students come to Transcendence with a headache, with a horrible pain in their neck, with a tweaked something or other, or just feeling super low energy. And they'll often say, I have no idea how I'm going to do this class today, because they're used to coming to a fitness or an exercise class and expending energy and feeling more tired afterwards. Where in Transcendence, we're actually it's like if you could reboot your computer, it's resetting your whole system, mind, body, and spirit, so that they leave no headache. The pain in their neck is completely gone. They go from feeling exhausted to filled with energy and re-energized. It's a complete reset, which is very different than what what the typical exercise world is. Yeah.
So to me, first of all, this sounds so fantastic. Being someone who I love dancing, but sadly I lost the coordination gene. So like there's no beat. Like I was kicked out of like step class in the back.
Yeah.
But
I
I loved dancing. And then I am thinking, to me, this sounds like the synergy of like meditation and movement. And so for so many people, especially today, who they feel, oh, I can't meditate, that this would be like they're so agitated, and it's hard for a lot of people to just sit there, that this would be like the perfect prescription. Would that describe it right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's like a moving meditation, and it absolutely harnesses your energy and focuses your mind on all the positive things you want to be focused on, and not all the worries and the anxiety, worrying about the future, worrying about the past, but really being present in this moment and harnessing your thoughts to what is it that you want to focus on? What are the positive things you want to draw into your life? There's 10 stages to transcendence, and the beginning is stillness in a very meditative, intent state. And then in the end is shavasana, where you're basically just, if you can, lie flat, or you can sit or be in a bed, where you're literally just letting all that you've moved and shifted simmer, and you're just centering in quiet stillness. So we bookmark the whole experience in an arc from a place of stillness back to the place of stillness. One of the other ways it's been described is like basically the mindfulness of yoga infused with positive music and free form movement. And you are our perfect client or student or practitioner, because you don't have to have rhythm. You don't have to follow any fancy steps. You get to unlock and unleash your inner dancer that's probably just, been dying to come out and have fun and be free and be accepted. I think that's also, the saddest thing for me is when I hear somebody say, "Oh, I can't dance." And I'm like, somewhere along the line, this beautiful soul was in a choreographed scenario, or maybe a school dance where they got ridiculed or teased or pushed to the side or kicked out of the step class, like you're saying, and then there's no outlet. That's part of why I'm so passionate about bringing transcendence to the world is people.
And I love it.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays it honestly has become an epidemic, anxiety, depression, and stress, and all of that. So I was just wondering if you could go in now. You mentioned, you've worked with some traumatic cases, and, with women who have been, I don't know if they've been abducted or part of sex trade or anything like that, but I would like to hear some of those stories just to highlight how this could be so helpful for people.
Yeah, well, for very traumatic, experiences like sexual abuse or sex trafficking and all of that, there's a light version of this work, because first and foremost, you don't feel safe to be anywhere. You don't feel safe to be in a feminine body. And for women that have been abused and traumatized in that way, the body's been, abused and objectified in such a way that you just shut down and go into fight or flight for the most part. So the beginning stage of really utilizing conscious dance in a dance therapeutic framework is just to begin to help them actually connect to the body. So many of us live from the shoulders up because it wasn't safe to even feel the body. So it's like almost like turning the light switch on. You just start to very slowly begin to turn the light switch on, just walking and moving in space. Stage 4 of transcendence is what we call the body part dance. And it's where it's just very fluid, flowing, kind of new agey music. And you're just walking through the space, kind of like if you'd be meandering through the park, kind of nowhere to go. You're just kind of walking around, meandering. And then you just let each of the body parts begin to move you. And the movement, often when someone closes their eyes, the movement begins to mimic a fluid, flowing, circular, or spiral pattern. It's how, if you think about the spiral of the DNA, or if you were to look at a cell under a microscope, it's kind of floating in water and moving and spiraling. And the human body, when it's unhooking or unwiring from trauma or stress or tension, if you think about, if you've ever gotten a knot in a like a chain, and you kind of just begin to loosen that and pull and kind of move it around, the body begins to do that. The head begins to flow, the shoulders begin to open up, the arms and the wrists. And if you just put the body in motion, the body will heal itself. So we do the head, the shoulders, the arms, the hands. And I will tell you, anybody who's terrified of dancing, if you ask them just to dance their thumb in space, all of a sudden it's not as scary. If you just ask them to let their elbow move and dance in space, they're so focused on how do I do that that they forget that they're even dancing, right? Let the knees move, let the feet take you on a journey. And we use visualization like the arms as trees or the arms as wings, or you could take your hands and dip them in paint and paint around the space. So all of a sudden, it's less about dancing and it's more about moving the body in fluid movement that begins to connect the brain and the body and the inner being. It's like you reconnect those pieces. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, I can move my body through space in a non sexual or sexualized or objectified way. Okay, this is kind of fun a little bit, right? And you just kind of ease them into it. One of my facilitators, this is one of her
Sounds
primary
like a
works.
relearning in a way, but would you say it also helps release some of the trapped
Oh, absolutely.
emotions? Because I
Absolutely.
mean, well, we know, well, that famous book, The Body Keeps Score, but
Mhm.
going through trauma, it doesn't stay here. It goes,
No.
that's why
No,
people,
it's stored
this
in
is
the
why.
body. It
Mhm.
is. It's stored in the body primarily as a stuck or fight or flight response. So once we can begin to help the person move their body rhythmically to music in different parts of the body, and then begin to release and allow their emotions to flow. That's the other thing. So much of this is, a somatic stored energy that as the body begins to move, sometimes there will be a release of tears or a scream
Wow.
or a laughter or joy. And this whole array of emotions will begin to flow. And if you continue to breathe and continue to let your body move you and begin to trust little by little that the body innately knows how to heal itself, absolutely, we've seen incredible transformation and much faster than just with traditional talk therapy alone, right?
Sure.
And there is that right and left brain balancing response that's happening with movement that's so
Because it's
powerful.
not logical. I mean, you can talk to a therapist and obviously they have their place absolutely and understand, what you went through, but then, like PTSD and it being stored in your body inappropriately, there's no connection there. So this seems to kind of put that link, which made me think of the next group of people that you mentioned, because we talked a lot about women, but clearly you work with men as well.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so the fire department and firemen, that I mean, they deal with a lot. I know here I'm in Sarasota, and
Mhm.
so they're really the ER and accidents. It's not fires, it's much more other medical stuff. So they really are the first responders. So I could see, of course, how they could be traumatized. So
Yeah.
tell me a
Yeah.
little bit, yeah, about your experience with the men and how they respond, because they're not used to the whole dancing thing.
No. They're amazing, though. I think it's really just about creating a safe environment and helping people understand there's no right or wrong way to do this. This is very therapeutic and healing. This will absolutely release the stress, the trauma that can get trapped in our bodies that we're not consciously aware of. And when we don't deal with those stresses and those traumas, they fester and actually turn into disease if it's not dealt with. And so there's a really powerful natural way to work with these beautiful souls and to create this really, really safe space. So, one of the stories that I like to tell is in tribes, in African tribes and Aborigine tribes, when they go off to war. Oftentimes, back in native times, the tribe would meet the warriors, and the warriors are covered in blood. They're injured. They're limping back, from their war. And they're met with the entire tribe, and they're met with drumming and dancing. And they literally pound these drums and they cry and they scream and they shake and they dance to integrate, to assimilate, to digest what's just happened versus come back to, the tribe and act like nothing's just occurred. You've got to move that energy, literally move that energy through your system. And so we've just
I love it.
forgotten
It's right.
over
So
thousands of years what
just you
works,
telling the
you
story,
know?
I can feel like I got the picture, like just so much energy and the emotion. But
Yeah.
also, you bring up the other good point of something we touched on before we started recording today, was just the whole power of the group and connection, and
Hmm.
how that is something that we actually have to make an effort to make happen now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
dancing, so it's not just dancing, but if you can do it in a group, it's that much more powerful. Would you? Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely. There's been a scientific study on a powerful process called collective effervescence. And it's this expression of effervescent joy and energy. And actually, whenever two or more are gathered and music is playing, number one, humans naturally mirror each other. And when that mirroring occurs, which is people sort of dancing together, and in one of our stages of Transcen-dance, we do what we call the mirror dance. And it's super fun. It's actually really fun to do in the virtual as well as in person. You'd be surprised how this energy of collective effervescence gets activated equally in a virtual setting, which I know sounds counterintuitive to most, but it's palpable. You can feel it when we come together as a group, when we move together, when we dance together, we cry together, when we laugh together. We're wired for that human connection as human beings. And there's just something really palpable and powerful. And it activates the four happy, healthy hormones: serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin. I'm missing one. There's one more that'll come to me, but these are the happy hormones that get activated and released in your body and in your brain, that is more powerful in some scientific studies than actually antidepressants, right? Taking those drugs are designed to mimic the natural release of these hormones. And through music and dancing, these hormones can get activated. And what they're finding is it can be as fast as one song. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out process. Although if I'm going to get all the equipment together and I'm going to get, dozens of people in the same room, I definitely want to dance longer than 5 minutes. But my point is, a little bit goes a real long way. So, yeah.
no, I love it. Like I said, I have like the best memories of going out just dancing, even though I had no rhythm.
That's
Well,
okay.
it just makes you so so happy. And so to me,
Yeah.
this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what about some other just health benefits? Obviously mental health, we touched on a bit there,
Mhm.
but something that has become huge, huge, huge is Alzheimer's, dementia.
Yes. So one of my favorite studies is the New England Journal of Medicine over 20-year study studying all these different kinds of ways to activate the brain to fight Alzheimer's. And what they found is the number one way to create increased mental acuity in 76% of all people doing social dancing. So, social dancing is basically what we do in conscious dance. But if you think about just going to the park and hearing a band play and just seeing a group of people dancing around, really what it is it's the activation of the fast twitch muscles and the way of moving the feet in a non expected way, right? So it's not doing the same. What creates the brain in really shutting down, right, is doing rote movement the same way all the time, getting up the same way, doing the same activities the same. Like, we're not firing and wiring any new neuronal pathways in the brain. And as we age, if we just always do the same thing the same way, we grab our coffee cup with the same hand, we put it down in the same way, we're not creating or building new neuronal pathways in the brain. So dance, they found, is one of the most effective. They studied weight training, they studied chess, they studied word games, they studied biking, walking, all these different kinds of movements, and dance by far blew every other result out of the water. And it makes sense if you think about it, right? If you think about how you're moving your hands and your arms and you're getting that cross crawl activity and you're being creative with your body and your movements, it makes sense, but there's just not I don't think enough outlets for people. So I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to change that. I'm on a mission to see Transcen-dance. We have facilitators teaching in senior centers and senior homes, and they love it. They do, a lot of them do it in a chair, and we give them scarves and different things that they can, use, and they partner together sitting in chairs, and they absolutely come alive. And you can see it. You can literally see the brain turning on, versus if they're sitting in a chair, completely immobile, watching television. They're not activating any new neuronal pathways that way, right? So, yeah, that's just one example, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. I mean, it just brings it all together. I guess I'm thinking, to me, the earlier that we can get some of this, stuff into our life,
The
the
better.
better off. Like, not waiting until you're stuck in a chair.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
Would be optimal. So other than like real, like traumatic cases, is there any other kind of population that you have worked with that you've had some really great results with, just overall health and wellness, well-being, I guess?
Yeah, I would say, the popular, all people, right? So I mean, the kids, I love working with kids, but for me, working with the kids, it's just keeping them awake. It's just helping them not fall asleep. So from that seriously, from age 5 to 10 and then through puberty into teenage years, helping them see, just stay awake. Don't fall asleep. Don't listen to the mainstream. You've got rhythm. Let yourself move and dance. Just have fun. Keep doing it, right? So giving them a sense of assurance and most importantly, not judging their bodies, right? When you get into that puberty into teenage years, there's this hyper self-consciousness that occurs,
It sounds
right?
like unlearning kind of how we've been socialized. Like, basically,
Yeah.
like, my analogy is, I took an art class and they had us do drawings with our eyes closed, because naturally children would know how to do a sun, but then we're told, no, it's a straight line with lines coming down. So to
Right.
me, it sounds like the same thing with the dance. We're socialized to become so self-conscious,
Yes.
and kind of unlearning that. And I'm just
Yeah.
wondering, have you worked with any children on the spectrum with this? Because,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd like to
Yeah.
hear about that as well, because I mean, I could see how that might help them also in their challenges.
Well, dance is the universal language, right? So, especially if you are having a hard time putting into words how you're feeling or being really verbal, you can fully express your feelings and what's going on through physical movement. So, it's a beautiful tool for really anyone, adults included, who are on the spectrum or finding ways to assimilate, to express, to move energy, to really just feel what's going on in life. It's such a beautiful modality for that as well. And I would say, probably in my experience, adults who are raising children, caring for their elderly parents, some of them are also raising their grandbabies, and they're so busy. And what do
Hmm.
we have as an outlet? It's either go to the gym, and there's a lot of no pain, no gain energy and mentality where you just feel even more tired, most people, when they return, from that experience, or they've outgrown the club world, like, where you could go and dance and kind of, burn off some steam and all of that. And so what are we left with? Or you're supposed to be super zen, like you said, and sit in meditation, but now your brain is like going wild with all the to-do lists and all your concerns and your worries, right? So then we feel bad because we feel like we're not doing it right, and I love personally yoga, but yoga is very serious for the most part, unless you happen to find laughter yoga, which isn't as common in most, scenarios. So I just feel like there's this thirst, this hunger for this experience. And one of my clients said it really beautifully. She said, I was feeling so couch potatoy with all the virtual work that I'm doing. And I wanted something a little more joyful and playful than yoga, but I wanted that mindfulness. But I also didn't want to feel like I was being screamed at by a sports coach in a fitness class, and I was looking for something different. And I found Transcen-dance, and it was exactly what I was looking for, because you get that mindfulness, you get the playful and the fun, you get to connect with other like-minded people, you get to shake off the stress and the tension. Literally, one of the stages is the dance of shift, where you literally shake your body, you shake your head, you shake your hands, you shake your whole body, and you feel like, just all that sediment, all that tension, all that stress that gets so tight and stuck in our physiology and our minds can just get shaken loose. And then we refill with the most beautiful light and love. And so I feel like that demographic, I mean, the everything we've talked about today, like healing trauma, working with, so many of our frontline workers, our seniors need to move, our kids certainly need to remember to move, but our middle-aged group that are working their asses off, they're taking care of everybody. Like, this is such a perfect outlet for, I feel like, that group to just refill our cup, to
Anyone, right?
reset.
Anyone who's a caregiver, whether you're a
Yes.
mother or, again, like you said, I mean, those people need this.
Yeah.
Now, is it only live, or is there recordings, or how does it work exactly?
Yeah. So I teach twice a month virtually on Zoom live. When you register for that class, which I'm happy to give your listeners a free class
I am doing
pass.
this. I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. If you can't make it live, it's recorded, and we send the replay and the playlist, because we often get questions on, we love the music. What was that song? So we send all of that out. I also have a digital, product version called the Transcendence Body Vitality Program, where I unpack the modality. There's a workbook, there's a video that goes with it. We have a Facebook group, Transcendance Global, and there's a Transcendance Global community where my trained facilitators who are all over the globe post their classes. So you might be able to find something closer to you or at a different time that might work for you. That's another place to check it out. But yeah, so for a free class, you just simply go to bti.com/dance.
And I'll
And
put the link in the show
yeah,
notes as well, to make
that
it
would be
easy
great.
for people. But no,
And
I'm just thinking myself, I do, I'll listen to like a random meditation sometime. I could see people at the beginning, ooh, they might want to try this, just, they're by themselves. And
yeah,
then I do
yeah,
think there's a major value in attending a live, but I could see doing
absolutely.
it totally by myself, where I will shut my eyes and no one looks.
Well, you can come and not turn your camera on if there's any concern about that. But I want to make sure I give the coupon code to get the class for free is just free class, all lowercase, FREECLASS, free class. But yeah, I mean, you don't have to turn your camera on. I have usually if there's 50 people in class or so, it depends on the day. If a dozen or so of them have their camera off and they're just kind of in their own space, totally fine. And then once they go, oh, like this is a really loving and accepting crowd, like there's all ages. You'll see a woman sitting down for the whole class. You'll literally see somebody in bed, and they're imagining, because they're probably healing from a surgery, or they're sick, right? So they're not able to be standing
Right.
and moving. You'll see a mom with her little 3-year-old bouncing around doing the movement. You'll see, I mean, it's family members. You'll see somebody dancing with their dog. I mean, like, it's everything you can imagine. And it is a very loving and accepting community. We're all there to just like shake off the stresses of life, get recentered, connect with our soul, and really just not worry for a moment, and reset. And focus on, I mean, I am a transformational coach by nature. We didn't talk about that. But one of the things I bring in is what we focus on expands. So
Yes.
whatever we're thinking about, we're putting that energy out into the field. and we are attracting opportunities to us, or we're attracting more of what we're worried about. And so I seed and sprinkle in some of those life coaching messages and visualizations, and I invite us to come into class with an intention. The intention could simply be to release stress and to align with more flexibility and more love for our body temple. An intention could be you've had this blowout fight with your spouse and you're just totally filled with worry and stress and anger, and you really want to shake that off. You want to connect to forgiveness, a greater sense of love and acceptance in your heart, and you want to move that energy through your system. If I'm working with clients on manifesting their dreams, maybe they're coming in because they really want to match the vibrational frequency of the thing they're wanting to call into their life. Like, let's say, they're wanting to, they're wanting to leave their job, right? And this year, maybe they're wanting to launch that dream business and they're afraid. They've got some worries about that. And so they're wanting to shift out of energy of worry into energy of faith, that if they really follow their dream and their soul's calling, God will provide. And every step that, right, to the energy of trust and surrender, right? So then they can take that step, right?
No, I love it. In this world, we are just inundated with content and all kinds of stuff that we really need to be mindful of what we're inputting and if you want to output. So to me, this is like, okay, someone could make a decision. This to me obviously sounds like a fantastic input.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, because what are people listening to all the time? I feel like just really, why do they feel miserable and scared and stressed? So just having like to me, this is just a breath of fresh air. That's how how's that?
It is. Well, I would love to dance with you, Bonni, anytime.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. And I know you're not gonna judge me
Of
with
course
the wrong
not.
direction.
No, there is no wrong direction. That's the best part. That's the best part because it's your direction. It literally is. So you will always do it right because it's your dance and your body is taking you on an adventure and on a journey. So it might take one or two sessions to go, oh, I really can trust my body. And as I do so, my body is right. Like to turn that, to feel that and to experience that, it unlocks so much confidence. I can't even begin to describe. I have clients that come that are wanting to build, more confidence to do all kinds of things in their lives, to speak on stage or to go on a date with, like they're starting in the dating world, or they want to go into work and ask for that raise, or just feel more empowered when they're parenting their children, or all different things. And when you can create this sense of trust in your body and that you stand in your skin in an empowered way, and that your body's doing it right, on the dance floor, it's such an empowering experience. You asked about men. One quick story I'll tell. We were at one of our personal development transformational trainings as an institute. And there was a man there, and he came to my Transcendence class. And I remember he came up to me and just says, I am terrified. I was told my whole life I can't dance. I'm literally trembling. And I said, so I took his hands and we just took a deep breath. And I said, first of all, you're in a safe place. Secondly, I will go through, there's 8 agreements that I go through at the beginning of every Transcen-dance class. And one of them is, this is a no judgment zone. This is a loving and accepting zone. Not only are you feeling this way, but you're not alone. There are others who felt judged and rejected. So we're going to push pause on all of that, and we're going to just create a very loving and accepting space. And I said, just one breath at a time, one stage at a time. If you just let this unfold, I promise you, and you just let your inner child out, that little boy in you that's 3 or 4 years old that doesn't know any of this yet. That part of you is free, right? And so I there was about 100 people. So I kind of lost him in the crowd a little bit, and he's kind of staying in the edges of the room. And this is all in person, right? So it activates that. I think it's a little easier to hide, in a virtual world because you can keep your camera off and nobody's watching, but it's great. It's all of that is good. And in person, though, it's kind of more in your face. Well, by the end of class, he's in the center of the room, just dancing his little heart out, and I could see the little boy in him, just the biggest smile, the most confident moves. And, I wouldn't say he was the best dancer in the room. There is no such thing in transcendence. Like you can look
That's good.
totally awkward and corny and weird, and it's perfect because it's your
Wow.
dance. It's your dance. And I remember him coming up to me at the end of class, just crying, like just the best tears, not sad tears, just like, I am a transformed human. I cannot believe what just happened. I will never be the same. You've completely changed my life. And then we had a dance, like a dinner and then like DJ dance. And I just remember looking, and his partner was there, and he was like just on fire, dancing. And his partner came over to me and he said, "What did you do to him? Like, he is a different human being." And I said, "I know, that's what this does." And he'll
Oh my
take that for the
goodness.
rest of his life. That level
That's
of
one session.
confidence.
So how
One
often do people
session.
typically would, I mean, obviously you can go as much as you want, but
Yeah.
typically, how often do
How
people,
often?
like
I
once a
would say,
week or something, or is that too much?
yeah.
Is that
No,
good?
no, no. People will utilize transcendence. And what's great, to your point, is it covers, like when I do transcendence, it's my meditation, it's my movement and fitness for the day because it's an hour of movement. It's energy healing. So it's like I had a Reiki session. I
Mhm.
literally can feel my body adjusting itself. So it works like a chiropractic treatment. It's a mental reset. So it's like a life coaching session because you're focusing on releasing what isn't what you're not wanting to focus on, focusing on your dreams and what you're manifesting. I mean, it checks off so many boxes. So, yes, I mean, I practice versions of this on a daily basis, sometimes 5-10 minutes, sometimes the full hour. Definitely once a week would be great. As often as you feel you want to come, at least a couple times a month. It's just a really great reset. So yeah.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you would want to, but well, I'm sure everyone who is going to listen to this is ready to be transformed because I
Yay.
certainly am.
Yay.
Get back out there on the dance floor.
Oh, well, once you find us an accepting, loving group and a dance floor that's very inviting to you, that'll completely change, I believe, for you, Bonni, and
Well,
anyone else like that. Yeah.
this has been wonderful, and the hour just like went so
Flew
fast, and
by.
I have so enjoyed hearing all about it because it is, like we've talked about. I mean, what you focus on is going to expand, and you are so joyful, absolutely. And so to me, this is an amazing thing. So I'm going to put links in the description here. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to share with our audience about any specials coming up, maybe in 2024, when, this will probably air in a couple of weeks from now.
Yeah, yeah. No, just I teach regularly the first Saturday of every month and then the middle of the month on Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Like I said, even if you can't come live, if you register for the class, you'll get the recording sent to you a few days after. And that you own for life, like it's yours. So you can practice it as many times as you want, download it, have that lesson. And I'd love to see you, Bonni, and your whole community come and dance anytime, as often as you'll be new family members in the community. It's a great community. I usually stay after class and open it up to what we call afterglow, where you can share. So there's community sharing, like you talked about, really carving out time to connect with others. So it's a very like-minded, heart-centered group of people looking to grow and be positive in this world and use a little music and dance to do it. So, yeah.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you so much again. And hopefully one time we will do it again with other stuff going
Yes.
on.
Likewise. Thank you,
Okay.
Bonni. So great. Thanks so much.